Hey guys, welcome to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to remove a vacuum pump off a Cummins turbo diesel. This is a 1998.5 24 valve, but this process will be basically exactly the same on a 94 to 98 12 valve, and then up to a 2002 24 valve. So this will be a three-part video series. In this video right now, I'll show you how to remove the vacuum pump, and then the second video, I'll show you how to rebuild it. We'll take over the workbench and actually rebuild it. And third video, we'll do the reinstallation. So make sure you subscribe for that. And to all my current subscribers, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And with that being said, let's dive right into this video. So the vacuum pump is located right there on the driver's side part of the motor, in between the gear case and the power steering pump. So I'll be taking out the vacuum pump and the power steering pump together as one unit. It's just a lot easier to do it that way. So what happened with this particular pump, and what is really common on these second gen Cummins, is the seal fails in the back of the vacuum pump where it meets up with the power steering pump, allowing a bunch of oil to leak past. Since that vacuum pump is lubricated by oil, that is not a good seal to have go out. As you can see, it's leaking quite a bit of oil. It's about 2 quarts of oil per fill up, so it's a pretty expensive leak, especially with the price of fuel. Nowadays, it's just not a good one to have. The pump itself is actually functional. I still have cruise control. My heater's not stuck on defrost, and the 4-wheel drive works. So that's some of the symptoms of a bad vacuum pump. But in this case, we just have a really bad seal. So this is definitely going to take a few beers and a couple cuss words to get this thing out. As you can see, it is really tucked underneath there. It is not the funnest of jobs, but it shouldn't be too bad. Beer makes everything better. So I'm going to go ahead and set you guys down right there, and I'm gonna remove the intake horn, take the battery off. I got some wires I got to get out of the way. I'm just gonna get everything out of the way off camera because I think you guys should be able to figure that out. So I'm gonna go ahead and crack a beer, and we'll get this job going. All right, guys, so at this point, the only thing I've really done is remove my intake horn along with the tube that went up to it, and then I also removed my battery. Pretty quick to get to this point. I only sucked on about half this beer, so we got a lot more work to do on that. At this point, I am going to remove our vacuum line here, and we got to remove all of our power steering lines. Make sure to mark those, don't mess those up, and then we'll start attacking those 3 bolts that hold the vacuum pump onto the gear case itself. And after that, I mean, we should be able to pull this thing right out. So with the main vacuum line off, I'm going to go ahead and remove all my power steering pump lines. Make sure you got an oil pan underneath because it's going to be a little bit of a mess, and make sure you mark or label your lines so you don't mix them up. And these lines are pretty stuck on there, so I'm just going to use a heat gun to heat them up so they come off a little easier. Okay, that was a little trickier. Whew. Alright, so with those 2 lines removed from the power steering pump, I'm actually going to leave that hard line connected. Once I get the vacuum pump removed from the block, I'm just going to rotate it so I can get at that line a little easier. I could fight it and get it off with it how it sits, but it's not really worth it since I'm taking everything out anyway. So next, I'm going to go ahead and remove the bolts that connect the vacuum pump to the engine block, and there's going to be a bolt right underneath where your main vacuum line comes in, and then there's one right kind of in the valley between the pump and the block. You see it way back there. Let's see if I can point it out. You see that guy right there, and I believe there's only 2. There might be 3. I felt around and I only can find, I think, 2 bolts. So I'll go ahead and show you guys how to remove those, and we'll pull this pump out and then remove that hard line last, and that should conclude this process. Alright, so the best way to reach that bolt back there is, I found out, is a S-style wrench. I'm using a 13mm. So we'll go ahead and see if we can get this guy loosened up. And it's a little tricky for you guys to see this, but I'm just right there, just like that, and then I'm going to put you guys down so I can use both my hands to loosen this bolt up. Okay, All right, so within about a minute, I got sick of that damn S-wrench. It was just too slow for me, so I tried this, my Milwaukee ratchet with a extension and a swivel, and I can kind of get her pretty good now. I don't know how far I'll be able to get it, but... Okay, it looks like it's all the way loose. All right, so that wasn't as hard as I remembered. You can get a swivel in there, I guess, but I think to break it loose, an S-wrench is kind of necessary because you just can't really get the torque that you need to break it loose on a super long extension and then with a universal joint on there. So, all right, so we got that guy out, and we're going to take that other one out, and we should be able to take that vacuum pump and power steering pump right out, get that final line off, and should be good to go. And to get that other bolt, I just use a 13mm socket on a ratchet. Pretty easy to get to. Alright, so here is the other bolt. Alright guys, so I kind of feel like an idiot. I thought my pump was kind of seized up in here, but it actually isn't. I forgot to remove on the L bracket right there. That is connected to the power steering pump on the, not that bolt, but the bolt below it. So I got to go ahead and remove that, and then the whole assembly will come out. Just kind of a brain fart there. So we'll go ahead and do that, and then everything should come out pretty nice. All right, that's a lot better, guys. Now I can pull this thing out nice and easy, just like that. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and remove that final power steering line now that I got some easy access to it. And after that, the power steering pump and the vacuum pump is completely removed from the pickup. Alright guys, so I just want to show you that L bracket that I completely forgot about there for a few minutes and just struggled and embarrassed myself, but it's right there. It's a 15mm nut to take off. It's just connected to one of the studs on the power steering pump. Take that off and everything comes off real nice. So I took the vacuum pump and power steering pump off together as one unit. You could have done it either way. You could have left your power steering pump connected and just taken off the 4 studs that hold, or the 4 nuts that hold the vacuum pump to the power steering pump, and left this thing completely hooked up, and then you wouldn't have to like bleed your power steering pump after you're done with this job. But it is a lot quicker, I think, just to take everything out as a unit. It's really not that hard. However you guys want to do it, it is completely up to you. This is just the way I figured I'd show you guys. But yeah, it'd be less of a mess to keep all this, you know, hooked up, and a little less work at the end. But I think I do save a little bit of time, because it does take a little bit of time to get all these nuts loosened up and, you know, take it off separately within the truck. But then again, you know, it's nice to have both of these on the bench. After I'm done rebuilding this, I'll be able to, you know, put the power steering pump and vacuum pump together on the workbench. Make sure I got a nice seal in between where they meet. You know, that's basically the cause of the whole problem of why I am doing this vacuum pump rebuild. So yeah. So overall, the whole removal process took me about an hour. It wasn't too crazy. The hardest part is getting that bolt that's kind of in the valley between the vacuum pump and the block. That's definitely the hardest to get out, but once you get that out, it's pretty smooth sailing. And don't forget about that L bracket like I did. I, you know, spent 5 minutes cussing and swearing, and I couldn't figure out why it was seized. I thought it was seized up in there, but no, duh, there's, you know, I completely forgot about that. So with that being said, guys, thanks again very much, and we'll see you in the next video.